Top stories tonight in Y News. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says the government is preparing to bring OFWs out of Sudan following a 72-hour ceasefire.
PBBM approves the 90-day extension of SIM registration after the April 26 deadline.
The Department of Justice says the chopper allegedly owned by suspended Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. is an evidence of his involvement in the killing of Governor Degamo.
And United States President Joe Biden is expected to announce his re-election campaign in 2024.
Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of April, 2023. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Hardy Delgado.
First in the news, the Philippine government is doing the necessary preparations in anticipation of the 72-hour ceasefire declared in Sudan. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is hoping it could provide an opportunity to bring home Filipinos stuck in the war-torn country. Nel Maribuhok reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the government will try to bring Filipinos to safety out of Sudan during the 72-hour ceasefire observance in Sudan. By the order of the President, Migrant Worker Secretary Susan Ople is on her way to attempt to evacuate Filipinos in the country during the 72-hour ceasefire.
I informed him that I will be leaving tonight with Undersecretary Hans Kakdak to oversee the welfare operations of the department in making sure that those who have those who are able to cross the border would be given financial assistance upon crossing.
According to the President, the Philippine government is now getting more information on the ground to better prepare and quickly bring out Filipinos out of the strife-torn country. According to the Migrant Workers Secretary, they are considering 3 exit points as possible destinations of OFWs from Sudan.
We are looking at 3 exit points. One would be from Khartoum by land and then exit via Aswan into Egypt. That's a land trip. The second one would be by land to Port Sudan and then by ship to Jeddah. The third one would be by air through Djibouti in cooperation with the U.S. Government because they have a U.S. base in Djibouti.
The U.S. announced on Monday that the warring factions in Sudan had agreed to a 72-hour ceasefire starting at midnight on April 24. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. presides over a sectoral meeting on updates regarding the subscriber identity module or SIM registration in Malacanang. The President approves the 90-day extension of SIM registration after the April 26 deadline. Failure to register within the given period of extension will result to the activation of SIMs. According to Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT Secretary Ivan John Uy, they are looking into gradually cutting off the features, services of SIM cards whose owners have yet to register their number during the 90-day extension.
We're talking to our telcos. During the 90-day period, we will observe the rate of registration, and after a certain period of time, we're seeing maybe 30 days or 60 days into registration, we will start deactivating some services on the SIM card. So for those who are registered within the first 30 or 60 days, we're still deciding on the date. But let's say after the 60 days, you will lose your access to your Facebook accounts or to your TikTok accounts. But you still can use your phone, you can still call, you can still text, and then after a certain period, you will lose your outgoing calls. So that way, ramdam nyo kung anong effect na hindi kayo nagpaparehistro. And so eventually, once we reach the 90-day period, you will lose completely all services.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court denied the petition to issue a temporary restraining order or TRO against the SIM registration. Dante Amento has the story.
The Supreme Court or SC denied the petition by the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines or NUJP et al. In its today's en banc session April 25. The petitioners seek to issue a temporary restraining order or TRO against the implementation of SIM card registration.
The court, during its en banc deliberations today, denied the prayer to issue a temporary restraining order in the case entitled National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, Inc. et al. Versus the National Telecommunications et al.
The court asked the respondents, such as the National Telecommunications Commission or NTC, National Privacy Commission or NPC, Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT, Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG, Department of Trade and Industry or DTI, Department of Education or DepEd, and the different telco companies in the country to comment on the petition within 10 days upon receipt of the notice. The petitioners also argued that the law is unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the court did not yet reveal the votes of the magistrates on the issue. They will upload a full copy of the resolution once available. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The chopper allegedly owned by suspended Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. that was allegedly ridden by those who killed Negros Oriental Governor Degamo is still in Dumaguete. Its sticker was gone when the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI found it. According to Department of Justice or DOJ Secretary Crispin Boying Remulla, the chopper stickers are just decals, so they are easy to remove. This is just one of the proofs of Representative Teves' involvement in the crime. They will still consider whether the pilot will be included in the case or they will become witnesses.
Commission on Elections or COMELEC Chairman George Erwin Garcia explained that they have no power such as to postpone the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections or BSKE in Negros Oriental. This is regarding the proposal of Senator Francis Tolentino due to the current situation in the area. Their power to put an area under COMELEC control begins on the first day of the Certificates of Candidacy or COC filing, which is on August 28, 2023.
So sa kasalukuyan po, wala pang kapangyarihan ng COMELEC, wala pang kami kapangyarihan na maglagay sa kahit anong parte ng aming masakan.
Garcia added that the other way to postpone the elections in Negros is through a law from the Congress.
And for the news abroad, in a much-anticipated announcement, United States President Joe Biden is expected to reveal his candidacy for a fourth and final presidential campaign in 2024. Nerissa Dando will give us the details live. Nerissa?
Good evening, Kath. The re-election campaign of United States President Joe Biden is expected to be announced on Tuesday, exactly 4 years since the successful launch of his 2020 campaign, marking him the 46th President of the United States following Donald Trump's 4-year reign. While the President in previous occasions has indicated his intention to run for re-election, he has not made a formal declaration yet. On Monday, President Biden once again alluded to his upcoming announcement, stating that he is planning on running and that he will announce this soon. Biden's reservedness when it comes to big decisions, as well as the lack of significant opposition in his party and a potential rematch with Trump, are some of the reasons why the election campaign announcement has been delayed, according to his aides. However, recent opinion polls suggest Mr. Biden's approval rating is very low, which took a hit from last year's incident around the withdrawal of the U.S. troops from Afghanistan, wherein 13 U.S. service personnel were killed. The general consensus among Americans from the president's polling is that they do not want a repeat of the 2020 election, but they are also not interested in exploring the alternatives. In a recent poll, over half of Americans think the country is on the wrong track. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, for that report live from Japan. With the war between Ukraine and Russia still ongoing, the United Nations chief calls for the improvement and expansion of the grain deal between the two countries. Marvi Delfin details why live. Yes, Marvi?
Kath, in the United Nations Security Council meeting in New York on Monday, April 24, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed the possible extension of the Black Sea grain deal beyond May 18. In the letter addressed to Russian President Vladimir Putin, Guterres urged both parties to continue its cooperation, given the benefits it has brought so far despite the war conflict. This after Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, posted on Telegram on Sunday, April 23, that Moscow would terminate the agreement if G7 nations and the European Union goes ahead with its near-total ban of exports to Russia. Medvedev warned that potential additional economic sanctions imposed on Russia, even in the form of restrictions on payments, logistics, and insurance, could also impede incoming shipments. The pact was brokered by the United Nations and Turkey back in July 2022 in separate agreements with Ukraine and Russia to address the global food crisis worsened by the war situation. Since the initial signing, 28 million metric tons of Ukrainian grain had been moved to 45 countries, with China, a strategic partner of Russia, being the largest recipient under the initiative. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Marvi Delfin, reporting live from Australia. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Kath. For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, announced that the repatriation of Filipinos from the war-torn country Sudan has begun. DFA spokesperson Maria Teresita Daza says the first batch, comprising of 50 Filipinos, were evacuated from Sudan's capital Khartoum by land as of last night. They will be repatriated to the Philippines through available commercial flights in Cairo, Egypt. She adds the Philippine Embassy in Cairo has received 350 requests for repatriation out of the 740 registered Filipinos in Sudan.
In other news, the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System is suggesting to local government units the temporary suspension of operations of swimming pools and car wash businesses. Meanwhile, the National Water Resources Board is still assuring that there will be enough supply of water until the wet season. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The data from the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System, or MWSS, shows that around 1,200 car wash businesses are connected to the services of the water concessionaires Maynilad and Manila Water. MWSS Deputy Administrator Jose Dorado Jr. said that local government units may implement ordinances the operations of car wash businesses, including swimming pools.
Yun po, maglabas po sila ng batas sa lugar nila na kung pwede po, tigil muna yung operation ng mga swimming pool natin dahil malaki po yung tubig po talaga na nakukonsumo po ng mga facilities na ginagamit dito.
The official's suggestion is in connection with the looming El Nino phenomenon.
Ang ordinance naman po, hindi naman po pang matagalan yan. During emergency period lang po, kapag talagang maranasan natin yung itong El Nino.
The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, said that the public and even business establishments may implement ways to help conserve water.
Sa ngayon, di pa ho tayo nag-release o nagagawa ng ganyang polisiya. Pero sabi nga po natin, kahit po siguro walang polisiya, ay sa kasalukuyan, pwede naman po makatulong po, no? Ang industriya dyan, na doon sa paggamit po, kung pwede po mag-recycle, kung magagamit sila ng tubig, pwede pang recycle water yan.
This swimming pool in Quezon City is not affected by water service interruptions even during the occurrence of El Nino in the past years. They implement measures to maximize the use of water.
Every morning po, nag-aagis ng chlorine para luminaw yung tubig. Tapos after 1 hour, babacuumin para yung dumi na bumaba may makukuha po. Hindi mag-aano sa chlorine. Pagpapalitan namin, yearly talaga sir, magpalit kami ng tubig. Pero yung tubig namin din natin dito sa Nawasa, safe naman kayo sa pool kasi natetesting yan. Tinitesting po. Kung marumi o hindi, para hindi magkaroon ng rashes yung mga naliligo.
A car wash business in Quezon City also uses techniques to minimize the use of water.
Para hindi masyado malaki yung bill pagdating sa water. So, kailangan lagi lang hinaan yung ng tubig. So, at saka kailangan lagi pag puno na yung drum, wag dapat hayaan na naka-open yung gripo.
The NWRB assures the public of sufficient water supply until the onset of the wet season. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
An investigation into the power crisis in Occidental Mindoro is being pushed in the Senate. This comes after the province was placed under a state of calamity due to daily power outages that even last up to 20 hours. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian filed Senate Resolution number 576 seeking to end the persistent problems in power supply in the province. The senator believes it is high time for the government to take over the management of the Occidental Mindoro Electric Cooperative or OMECO to identify the problem.
Kung management issue, no, ang gobyerno pwede pumasok doon para ayusin niya. Pero short term lang yan. No? At titignan niya kung ano yung mga pagkukulang. Pwedeng maging issue yan ng negligence, pwedeng maging issue ng mismanagement.
To immediately address the power outages, Gatchalian recommends sending generators from the National Power Corporation. He also urges OMECO to fast-track its submission of power supply agreements to the Energy Regulatory Commission for an emergency purchase of power supply. The lawmaker also calls on the Department of Energy to look at connecting Occidental Mindoro to the main grid through an underwater transmission line as a long-term solution.
The Department of Justice, or DOJ, gave 10 days for the Protection and Indemnity, or PNI Club, the insurance company of the sunken MT Princess Empress, to submit its concrete plan to remove the remaining oil from the motor tanker. According to the DOJ, it has been almost 2 months since the incident happened, so the government cannot wait any longer. The insurance company's representative explained that they are intelligently studying all possible ways to not increase the damages. Meanwhile, the director of the International Oil Pollution Compensation, or IOPC funds, attended the interagency meeting led by the DOJ. IOPC funds is an international intergovernmental organization that provides compensation for damage caused by oil pollution, such as oil spills from tankers.
10 days for you may be too long. So may we ask that we give ourselves 10 days. And otherwise, the government will try to explore its options in respect to initiating legal measures against the ship owner, you, or any other governmental agency that is engaged in the maritime industry.
The Department of Transportation aims to establish a national standard for automatic fare collection system, which may include mobile phones as a payment option. JP Nunez will tell us why.
Philippine Railways Institute presented earlier today, April 25, the plan of the Department of Transportation or DOTR on the future of the automatic fare collection system in the country. According to Randolph Klett, the operations manager of the AFCS Project Management Office, they aim to have interoperability among players in the industry. The government will set a national standard for AFCS, which companies will need to integrate.
Ang gusto po sana natin na ideal ecosystem ng AFCS sa Pilipinas is yung kahit na ano pong fare media na technology ang gamitin ninyo, pwede niyo po siyang gamitin. At kahit ano po yung i-elect ninyo, pwede po siyang magamit sa kahit na anong mode of public transport.
Klett showed the different AFCS methods they aim to establish among all modes of public transportation, including transit cards like beep cards, bank cards, and the use of mobile phones, which may provide two options. Option 1 will be a QR code that will generate a fare ticket, while option 2 will be the use of a near-field communication app, which can mimic actual cards that will serve as digital payment.
Siguro po mga nasa 50 to 60% ng ating pong mga phones po sa ngayon ay capable na po, equipped na po ng NFC technology. Ano pong ibig sabihin? Kailangan nyo lang po itong saksakan ng mga application na kayang imimik ang isang card o isang QR para later on, mismong siya na po, yung phone na po ninyo, ang inyong daladala araw-araw at itatap po ninyo sa ating mga validators. Pwede po kasi na may application ka later on sa phone na mukha siyang card pero nasa phone. Meron kang virtual card pero nasa phone mo, and then using NFC, itap mo lang din yung phone mo as a card.
With the project of the DOTR, commuters will be allowed to use the same method of digital payments in different modes of transportation. For example, if they ride a railway system, they may use the same beep cards in riding on a bus, jeepney, or taxi. Klett explained. The national standard for AFCS may be done within 3 months or earlier, depending on the decision of the DOTR. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, or DESA, has announced that India's population is expected to match China's more than 1.4 billion population by the end of April. This follows the UN Population Fund statement last week that India would have 2.9 million more people than China by the middle of 2023. China has held the status of the world's most populous country and will soon lose that title. It has been difficult for UN officials to pinpoint the exact date, as India has not conducted a census since 2011, and the next census scheduled for 2021 has been delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. China reached its peak population size of 1.426 billion in 2022 and is expected to drop below 1 billion before the end of century, while India's population is expected to continue to rise for several decades. Citizens of Australia and New Zealand gathered at Anzac Day dawn services to commemorate those who dedicated their lives and fought during World War I. Devera will give us the details live. Yes, Ia?
Kath, today's holiday, April 25, marks the 108th year after the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, or ANZAC, set their foot on the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey as allied forces, and people from New Zealand and Australia gathered in different places to honor the veterans of war. Anzac Day services were held at different cities in Australia, like Melbourne, Gold Coast, and Sydney, and major cities in New Zealand, such as Wellington and Auckland. Remembrance Day involves the commemorative services at war memorials across the nation that were held at dawn or the time of the original landing in Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey, as well as marches later in the day by ex-servicemen and women in different cities. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese attended the Anzac Day dawn service in Canberra and gave a message to his citizens.
Across our country this morning, Australians have gathered in peace, free citizens of a proud and free nation. 108 years after those first Anzacs set off in their boats, we remember them and all who followed.
He added that he is hoping for peace and end of war and will continue to commemorate the Army veterans.
We hope that war will one day be done, that the cause of peace will prevail and we can stop inscribing names on memorials. But even then we will keep gathering before the dawn. We will gather together, we will gather for them.
Meanwhile, in New Zealand, Prime Minister Chris Hipkins attended an Anzac Day dawn service in Upper Hutt, Wellington, and talked about his grandfather's encounters during World War II as a signalman in the Air Force. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Iya De Vera, reporting live from New Zealand. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, announced today, April 25, that most of the budget have already been released to agencies. According to DBM Secretary Amena Pangandaman, she hopes to implement all the ongoing procurement procedures, especially in the infrastructure sector. Meanwhile, the DBM has announced that the amendment of the Government Procurement Reform Act, or GPRA, will help government agencies in the country with budget utilization. Pangandaman said that the 20-year-old procurement law has become a hurdle in the budget utilization of agencies. The agencies are now coordinating with the World Bank and ADB for the law's amendment.
Some private schools plan to revert to the pre-pandemic school calendar for the school year 2023 to 2024. Janice and Henta will tell us why.
Despite having proper air conditioning units in their classrooms, the Federation of Associations of Private School Administrators, or FOPSA, said that absenteeism of students in private schools increased as the hottest month begins. FOPSA President Eliazardo Casilag said that aside from students, some faculty members are also complaining about the extreme summer heat.
May mga parents kami na ang dating ayaw na mo nang papasukin. Kasi talaga magkakasakit yung bata. Nasa 40 ang init minsan. Marami kami mga complaints sa mga parents. Absence ganito. Kagagawin mo.
Casilag said that private schools are now planning to revert the school calendar from the pre-pandemic schedule for the next school year. The new calendar will begin in June and end in March, while the summer break will be in April and May.
Kung kami mag-decide, okay lang. Pero may maiipit na number of hours. Hindi namin papabuti ng bilihan para kumbaga tipong i-aakma na namin sa schedule next year, next school year, 23-24, balik na tayo sa June to March. Kung kami allow ng DepEd to go through this one, at itong school year na ito medyo affected. Siyempre, liliit na number. Well, I mean, we are supposed to have 200 to 210 school days. Yan ang requirement.
Casilag said that they will still consult the said plan with the Department of Education.
Sana maintindihan niyo ng DepEd. Para next school year, baka iiba kami ng schedule sa kanila, iba yung public, iba yung sa amin. We would like to stick to what we have been doing all along, di ba? Yung June to March. I wish we would still be understood by DepEd when we do that.
Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Several lawmakers are calling on telecommunication companies and concerned government agencies to take advantage of the SIM registration extension to reach more mobile users in remote areas. Arlene Delgado will tell us why.
Senators welcomed the decision of the government to extend the SIM registration for 90 days. Under the Republic Act 11934 or the SIM Registration Act, the Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT may extend the SIM registration up to 120 days. Senator Grace Poe, chairperson of the Senate Committee on Public Services and sponsor of the SIM registration law in the Senate, says the extension will avoid disruption of critical mobile services. However, she calls on telecommunication companies and the National Telecommunications Commission to double its efforts in reaching mobile users in remote areas. The senator emphasized that no one should be left behind in expanding the SIM registration. Meanwhile, for Senate Minority Leader Aquilino Coco Pimentel, the extension should be enough and that the government and telcos should take advantage of the extension period to remind the public the need to register. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also respects the decision of the government to extend the SIM registration. But the lawmaker believes a complete registration of all SIMs in the country is impossible.
Nung tinitignan ko yung statistics, 120 million SIM cards, no? Ang population natin is 109. So ibig sabihin pati yung sanggol tsaka yung bata may prepaid, no? But that's not the case. Ang alam natin kasi marami tayong mga kababayan na more than one ang kanilang prepaid SIM card. So marami rin sa ating mga kababayan na hindi nila rin register na yung kanilang multiple prepaid SIM card. No? So that's why I don't think, in my analysis, hindi tayo aabot ng 100%.
Meanwhile, Globe Telecom also welcomes the 90-day extension, saying that it will give millions of unregistered customers more time to comply with the law. It appeals to its subscribers to register their SIMs as soon as possible and advises those who may be needing assistance to go to their stores. As of April 24, the telco says over 39 million of its customers have registered their SIMs out of its 86 million subscriber base. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. Good news for job seekers in the Cordillera Administrative Region. 44 companies plan to open job vacancies in participation of a job fair to be held on May 1st in celebration of the Labor Day. Grace Flores will tell us why.
Local and national companies are expected to hire job seekers as they will open job vacancies at the Baguio Convention Center on May 1st from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Department of Labor and Employment Cordillera Regional Director Nathaniel Lahambra said 44 companies will join the event, 41 of which will offer local job employment while 3 others for international jobs. Over 2,000 job vacancies will be offered for interested applicants.
Another part of our May 1st celebration is the giving of government assistance to our workers in the informal sector, particularly yung tupad natin at saka yung livelihood projects.
The annual job fair will be spearheaded by the local government and the Department of Labor and Employment Cordillera to help job seekers land a job and improve their family living. Dolly Carr clarified that lists of overseas employment companies joining the activity were not announced yet. The validation of these agencies are ongoing. La Cámara added that based on records, the turnout of job fairs in past 2 years increased, where 15 to 17% of job seekers were hired on the spot.
Maganda yung turnout natin as far as applicants are concerned. And as far as HATs or hired on the spot is concerned, we had fared well also as far as in comparison with the other regions.
The said activity is in cooperation with the Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Tourism Cordillera, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Cordillera, Public Employment Service Office Baguio, Philippine Overseas Employment Administration Cordillera, Department of Agriculture Cordillera, and other private partner companies. DOLE is also expected to distribute financial assistance for the beneficiaries of Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged Displaced Workers Program, Special Program for Employment of Students, and Government Internship Program in the region. The department urges to prepare all application requirements such as resume or curriculum, certificate of employment for previous employees, diplomas, and transcript of records. Grace Flores, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
During hot and humid weather comes the risk of dehydration. Health experts say elderlies are prone to dehydration as they tend to have low thirst sensitivity. Gladys Tuwabi will tell us why.
There are elderlies who tend to forget drinking water since they do not feel thirsty at all. However, experts say elderlies tend to have low thirst sensitivity, reason why they are prone to dehydration.
As we age, meron talaga mga functions ng katawan natin na medyo na-deteriorate. At isa dyan yung sensitivity talaga ng mga matatanda kung sa thirst. At saka yung thirst mechanism din kasi minsan, nagpa-falter din yan. So, at saka isa pa, yung mga matatanda minsan, nakakalimutan din talaga nila uminom. Kapag kulang yung input or yung kulang yung iyong naipapasok na tubig sa iyong katawan, pwede ka talaga ma-dehydrate.
However, even kids can also experience dehydration as they have fast metabolism. With this, experts recommend to drink at least 10 to 12 glasses of water per day to avoid dehydration, which is cause of some complications such as heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Yung advice natin na masasabi sa akin ay para sa mga taong walang sakit sa puso at walang sakit sa bato at walang sakit sa baga. Ibig sabihin kapag hindi nagkakaroon ng fluid overload, pwede kayong uminom ng around 10 to 12 glasses a day. Pwede po yan and for the general public.
Dehydration can also be avoided by limiting exposure to activities that can make one exhausted. Eating fruits and vegetables as they have water content can also help. Gladys Tuwabi, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Filipino fans are already looking forward to British-Canadian singer Matt Maltese's Asian concert tour in the Philippines. It will be held at the Samsung Theater in Quezon City on May 22, 2023. Matt Maltese's Live in Manila concert is brought to you by Midas Production and KDR Music House. This would be his first ever tour in Asia, so he is looking forward to seeing his fans in Manila. Meanwhile, his album entitled Driving to Just Drive will be released on April 28, 2023. For ticket reservations, just go to SM Ticket Outlets or email smtickets.com.
Our kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Romans, chapter 14, verse 8, it says, "For whether we live unto the Lord, and whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's." Reasons behind the news, April 25, 2023. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Hardin Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.